Brace yourself and grab your notebooks. This will be a very long video, but hear me out.
I'm seeing a lot of conversation about why black men should go to college, why they don't go to college, but no one's talking about the elephant in the room, and that is the fact that a lot of black men cannot read at a college level.
Read to your sons. We are not reading to our sons. That's the biggest issue. There are two things I really want to get out of the way. Number one, stop approaching the black man as if he is a defective woman. That's number one. And number two, I'm going to need black women to stop having such a short memory, acting like black men have not struggled in this nation as well. I think what's starting to upset me the most about this discussion about black men in college is that black women will not admit that being a woman, being feminine in this space is an asset and not a liability.
The excuses that have been adapted by black men within this conversation are a direct result of not only not being able to successfully buy into the patriarchal structure, but also an adapted sense of paternalism that is a direct result of white supremacy. And I think for a lot of men, because we have lived in a world where male default thinking, it has been the norm, now seeing women enter into these spaces where usually men were automatically granted space and women had to supersede those expectations, particularly black women, in order to gain access. Now that they see that women have been able to climb over those barriers, not only to get in, but also to surpass them, it is being intentionally feminized. And in the world of male default thinking, the worst thing that you can do is be feminized. In the book, The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, which I spoke about in a previous video, she says, the types of behaviors denounced are not dictated to women by her hormones or predestined in her brain's compartments. They are suggested in negative form by her situation. And in that entire chapter, she's discussing how women who are, quote unquote, adapting these male traits like educating themselves or going into corporate jobs, women who are confident, that those women are a direct threat to society and societal norms at hand, and that those women must be used as punishment. And unfortunately, throughout history, men have used women for emotional care tasks, physical labor, in order to be able to advance themselves in their careers, and women have used education as a means to freedom. In the book, A Brief History of Misogyny, it talks about how in the 11th century, convents had become a major educational resource for women, where they learned to read and write, and where they could become acquainted with learning and the classics. So women were essentially using convents in order for them to be able to educate themselves so that they wouldn't have to get married in order to survive. But while we're here, we can dig a little deeper, because I think that there's also a part of intersectionality that is intentionally being left out of the conversation, and that is the way in which the system perpetuates violence against black women and girls. And that can be through many different things, like how girls are misdiagnosed when it comes to autism. And in this book, Women and Girls with ASD, Sarah Hendrickx writes that researchers have hitherto thought that autism somehow overrides gender differences, and rather than having the neurological, physiology, and cognitive profile of a man or woman, one is simply autistic. So while yes, we do see disparities in boys, especially black boys, not being diagnosed early enough, we aren't seeing girls being diagnosed at all, because the way that ASD presents in girls is vastly different for boys, but researchers aren't considering that because they don't believe that gender, for the most part, affects how these symptoms present. But we also can't dismiss how the police state and the school to prison pipeline directly affects black girls, because black girls are 6 times more likely than white girls to be suspended from school. And this school to prison pipeline directly affects how black girls have access. In the book Punished for Dreaming by Bettina Love, she discusses how a girl named Kia, who grew up in Chicago and was subject to the foster care system, was over-policed and arrested twice, once when she was 8, once when she was 16, because of the fact that there was a perceived threat from her. And how, despite these circumstances, Kia was able to go on and to study for her doctorate degree. Kia went on to use her education to discuss the case of Ma'Khia Bryant, who was fatally shot by a police officer in Columbus, and she wanted to discuss the disparities and how police brutality is affecting black women and girls. And no, this is not an oppression Olympics. This is not about whether or not black men or black women are facing more. We do know, however, that intersectionality plays a huge role in how people are treated. And when you are both black, a woman, and add anything else to that, that you are facing very different consequences than the rest of society. Now, what I would suggest is that there are more black men who are in these research fields, who are studying social sciences, to understand where these disparities are happening and why, so that we can get more boys into school educating themselves with a willingness to learn, and less men complaining about what it is they feel like black women have taken from them.